will Bayern do to beat this Real Madrid? After overcoming Arsenal in quarterfinals, Thomas Tuchel promised to employ the same approach against Real Madrid, studying the opponent's style and attempting to neutralize their main strengths. In the pre-match press conference, the Bayern coach clarified, "We need to combine good tactics with luck. It's important to have a combination. Players need a plan and a clear idea. At the same time, they need freedom in some areas. And all of these needs to be accompanied by luck and an individual math. If you're going to beat Real Madrid, you need this whole package." The right approach to this match is to consider Real Madrid as a confident favorite and a tactical puzzle for Tuchel. It seems that the German himself is approaching the game in this manner. Of course, we can come up with the strategies for Thomas, but we can certainly describe the questions he will need to answer. With no doubt, possession versus the boss is the most uncomfortable mode for Real Madrid. Every opponent of Madrid must decide how passively or actively to use pressing. Real Madrid is good with the ball, is versatile in any model, it's brilliant combining freedom with a tactical framework and exceptional skills of players. However, there is a mode that is less comfortable for them: clear bus parking. Ancelotti's team loses attack on space and the opportunity to strength and then destroy the opponent's pressing. An almost flawless embodiment of such a plan in Alaves, which lowered Real Madrid to minimum XG this season. It's zero point 0.6. They conceded a goal at the very end after a set piece, but they almost perfectly contained Madrid throughout the game, especially in the first half, which was played on equal terms. In the second half, Alaves was in majority and obviously dull with the ball. It's obvious that they were not prepared for this at all. There were also other matches where Madrid had problems creating against the bus. The problem for opponents, even with such a plan, Ancelotti's team catch rare transition episodes, and that starting plan needs to be changed. A quality bus is needed, but also a complete absence of errors, and that's tough with the quality of defenders that Bayern currently have. Completely shutting down Real Madrid is impossible. But this move gives the greatest chance to make Madrid uncomfortable. It seems that the current Bayern is not one of the limited circle of teams that can ignore such an approach and simply rely on their football, believing that they will be better than Madrid. Therefore, the scenario of playing to contain should be seriously considered. On paper, the principles are simple: deprive space, maintain compactness, shift according to the ball, timely rebuild into a five, and you can easily find several good examples of implementing this plan. Many elements of this plan are familiar to this Bayern under Thomas Tuchel. The Germans willingly passed the ball to Arsenal, demonstratively avoided pressing, and even used wingers dropping, like Gnabry or Guerrero, into the position of a defender. This time, a familiar basis directions suggests itself, but the details may differ. The left flank, a frequent trump card for Real Madrid, and a zone of instability in their matches. At the basic settings, Real clearly overload the left side. This applies even to those matches where Ancelotti does not prepare a plan with a double flank as against Manchester City, but also for regular ones. This zone is particularly important for Madrid. The opponent needs a clear understanding on how to counterattack these. Tuchel has two options. The first is to try shut down this zone. In this case, hard-working wingers with defensive drops and support from the midfielders is needed. And the second is to explode the edge in both directions and rely on counter-attacking moments. In such a scenario, Leroy Sané is the best option starting for this flank, and he remains in a deliberately high position. Real Madrid literally initiative attacks throughout its zone, and the bet is placed on Bayern's dangerous counterattacks. So both teams will create, but you believe that you will create more and your chance is going to be more difficult, more dangerous. The second scenario is simply great for spectators, but it seems that Bayern is still closer to the first approach according to the Tomel Tuchel manner. Right back Joshua Kimmich is currently playing, clearly not someone who can be entrusted with the daring task of playing one on one. Vinicius is one of the biggest dribblers. There are few equals in isolations. It's difficult to defend against such a player one on one, and we must solve the task of neutralizing him tactically as a team. Kimmich explained that just yesterday. One more key element for Real Madrid's success puzzle is Toni Kroos. He's the best in the world at advancing the ball, especially when given freedom. Toni Kroos delivers an average of 13.8 passes into the opponent's third per game. If given freedom, he can produce even more. The game through Toni Kroos determines how much the opponent will have to adjust and which gaps in the defense will be exposed. Usually, the German not only receives freedom but also finds it. He particularly excels at orchestrating from two different positions. The one is a classical one, the pivot zone. The second one is more strange, more difficult to forecast. It's somewhere between the left back and the center back. His teammates are well aware of this and adapt accordingly, freeing up space for Tony if he plans to change in the initial phase. The optimal scenario is not just to assign a guardian to Toni Kroos, but to place an opponent against him in his two favorite zones to avoid disrupting the scheme structure. For example, Hurricane can do this work in a central zone, while Musiala or Zane can monitor his flank runs. Billingham's magic is impossible to block, but his birds need attention. Billingham's coordinally brilliance can be divided into two components: magic and movement. The first is difficult to predict. The Englishman plays with freedom and can appear in any zone. He can create from anywhere, and the opponent's decisions in specific episodes come to the fore. That's really nothing to forecast here. But the second can be prepared for. Bellingham provokes a significant portion of moments through numerous clever bursts. His winning goal in the first classical round is a good example. If his magic is impossible to predict, then his bursts needs preparation, although containing them in a very difficult. Jude always makes dozens of attempts. The risk of losing him is extremely high. Moreover, he is very cunning and often changes direction, shapely or makes an uncomfortable acceleration of the opponent. The Englishman not only opens in the penalty area, sometimes he stays on the edge on the second phase of attack. Literally all elements of his movements are aimed to being lost. However, conceding a goal due to this against Jude is a cheap goal. And this most important match of the season, these aspects of his game needs to be contained. Who could handle Jude? Could be Conrad Limers, and it looks like a good candidate. He's certainly physically capable and attentive. The concern is injury, which puts the Austrian participation in question. Even if he plays, he might not be ready for 100% for this test, and that's a bad thing for Bayern. Madrid reads an opponent extremely well. Without reactions during the match, they are difficult to beat. And congratulations, you reached Real Madrid's secret weapon. This means your initial plan is good, but it could not be enough. The adaptivity of Real Madrid forms fair legend. Here are a few recent examples. The veterans in our team are not toxic, but experimentary. Toni Kroos is like a ready-made coach. He can explain how to play against City right on the field. Working with such players is a gift for a coach. That's a quote from Ancelotti. Madrid has a solution for any scenario. This versatility is extremely important. Even without changing the lineup, the coach can greatly influence the team. Ancelotti notices small details that others miss. On the 20th minute, he says, "You play here now," and you attack this zone, and normally it works. That's the quote of Joselu. So good preparations, it's barely enough against Madrid this season. Good reaction during the matches are also needed, but Tuchel is a maestro of such things. If the initial plan works, the moment when additional intervention is needed will be, and Tuchel will need to catch it and react properly. The only chance against probably the best team this season.